Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. Today is July 11th, 2023, the first day of the NATO meeting in Vilnius. There's not a whole lot that actually came out of that meeting. Doesn't mean that not much happened at the meeting, but not much has been publicly announced. What did come out of it is, first of all, that France has announced that they are going to uh, provide long range missiles to Ukraine for the purpose of, quote, striking deep into enemy territory. In other words, for Ukraine to be able to attack mainland Russia. This is a dangerous precedent, and I don't think that that's going to go over very well with Russia. Anyway, the other thing that that happened was that Vladimir Zelensky, at the very beginning of this meeting, started attacking the members of NATO, saying that they should show more respect to Ukraine. Uh, yeah, he actually said this to all of these countries that have been, just breaking their own economies, emptying out their weapons stores, and just destroying themselves for the alleged sake of Ukraine. Why did he say all of this? Because he objects to there being any conditions for Ukraine to join NATO. And he thinks that Ukraine should be able to join NATO immediately with no conditions. It is in the NATO Charter that no country can join NATO if they are engaged in an active conflict. Now, if Ukraine were admitted to NATO right this minute, that would immediately incite Article 5, which means that all NATO countries would have to come to the active defense of Ukraine against Russia. Even though the European countries have already admitted, and the United States has admitted, that basically out of ammunition and out of weapons that they can send to Ukraine. Doesn't mean that these countries are out of weapons, but any stores that they have, any excess stores above their bare minimum requirements for self-defense, are all depleted. They're gone. And they don't have the ability to ramp up production to make up that difference now. In some cases, they have actually gone beyond and taken, weapons and ammunition out of their active stores to send to Ukraine. But NATO needs to show Ukraine more respect and lift all conditions and admit Ukraine into NATO now. For the last 3 days or so, including today, Russia has been on the offensive. and they have gained territory across most of the front line. They have been destroying, you know, literally hundreds of armored vehicles. The Ukrainians were, of course, on an offensive, but then Russia went from a defensive posture to an offensive posture, and this is the result. Ukraine has lost more territory in the last 3 days than they had gained in the last 5 weeks. Now, there were about 2 areas where Russia did fall back. They retreated in 2 areas. But when I look at a map of those 2 areas, which are small areas, a few kilometers in one area, maybe 2 or 3 kilometers at the, I can't remember the name of it. It's a bridge. But this looks highly suspicious to me, considering what we've seen of Russian territory, Russian tactics, Russian strategy, where they will fall back and allow a cauldron to form, and the Ukrainians will just rush headlong into it, and then they wind up being fired on from 3 sides. So it's not turning out very well for Ukraine, and I expected this to happen. I had expected that Russia was going to start an offensive just before July 11th, and just so that Zelensky would basically be shamed when he went to the meeting in Vilnius, and I was correct. So most of this is easy to predict when you've seen Russian strategy from the past throughout this conflict. So when I take a look at the map at areas where Russia has fallen back to one of their defense lines, that's not looking so good. Where the bridge is concerned, the Ukrainians have been at times they've completely evacuated that area, and then they send more troops in, but they've been, largely holding that area. But the advantage that they have had in that immediate area has been Ukrainian artillery on the opposite side of the river, which, if they move forward, if they advance, they're not going to have that advantage because the artillery is on the opposite side of the river. I don't believe any armored vehicles can actually cross the bridge because at least some part of that bridge has been collapsed by missile strikes, and one more missile would take out the rest of it very easily. It's like a 2-lane bridge, or it might be 2 lanes each direction from what I can tell, and one side, 1 lane or 2 lanes on one side, has completely collapsed. So I don't believe that armored vehicles can cross. So all they've got coming across that bridge, and they've been having to send their troops not across the bridge, but they've been coming across by boat. So I'm pretty sure that the bridge is structurally unsound, and nothing is going to be able to cross it. I found it interesting just a few days ago that one commentator was again claiming that, well, maybe Russia is out of artillery shells, out of weapons, and all the all this stuff that we've been hearing since March of last year. Russia's out of this. They're out of missiles, they're out of artillery shells, they're out of tanks, they're out of this, they're out of that. And then the next thing you know, well, here comes a massive missile strike, drone strikes, artillery barrages, and this is what is going on right now. After, this talk about Russia being out of artillery shells, they're not out of artillery shells. Their production capacity is much higher than all of NATO combined, including the United States. And they produce, dozens to hundreds of tanks and armored vehicles per month. We have no idea how many missiles or drones they're able to produce per month, but they're exporting helicopters to Africa. So if they're exporting things, I'm pretty sure that their production capacity is sufficient for this conflict. Pardon me. Now, I am not going to lie. I was really hoping that if Russia started pushing back and advancing, that what was going to happen at this Vilnius meeting, which still largely remains to be seen because it's supposed to go on for at least 2 days, maybe 3. What I was hoping was that NATO was just going to say, we cannot give you anything else. Of course, they're like France, like the United States, they just may go to worse and worse. I'm kind of questioning at this point, when are they going to start sending chemical, biological weapons to Ukraine, nuclear weapons, etc.? I'm really questioning that. I mean, if they're already sending the cluster munitions and depleted uranium over there, both of which, in my opinion, should be war crimes. The use of which should be war crimes. Especially the cluster munitions have been banned by over 120 countries. Laos, Cambodia, they have been struggling with unexploded cluster munitions for decades. People are still being injured and killed by these things. 40% of the victims are children. So once these things fall, and there are unexploded munitions all over the place in the environment, then in future years, farmers, children, civilians are going to be injured and killed by these. And so I was going to try, I was hoping that I was going to be able to do a video each day of this summit, but like I said, not much is coming out as yet. And unless some information comes out and I can put out a video early in the day tomorrow, I'm not going to have time to do one video each day of this conference. So I will just have to catch up next week when I can. So thank you very much for watching. Share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can afford it, please donate whatever you can to help expand this channel. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you have a good night. All right. Bye.